There are potentially billions of pounds of dirty money flowing through global economies each year. And despite significant investment, anti-money laundering enforcement continues to be a work in progress. But is a battle worth fighting to prevent terrorist financing and to maintain the integrity of the financial system? AML laws help prevent the financial market, especially banks, from being misused for illicit activities.
I think the world is changing. The world is getting ever more complex. The way we do things are changing constantly, and obviously regulation has to keep up. The way we monitor, the way we police these things also has to keep up.
Financial crime is significantly increasing across the world. The numbers are just continually increasing, and at the moment, no matter what we do, it still keeps seeming to go up. Due to this, it's made governments and regulators realise that more needs to be done to ensure that firms, like banks, have more controls in place to monitor and mitigate money laundering risk. So what it's actually resulted in is a number of new pieces of legislation that's come out more recently, and there's more to come around anti-money laundering. And what this has actually done is impose more requirements on firms to have enhanced controls.
While it's essential for the gatekeepers such as banks and other financial institutions to apply measures to prevent money laundering, the effects of these are felt by the person in the street.
This actually means more checks, when you're going to open a bank account, more enhanced monitoring, and all of this really is, for everyone's own benefit, and it's to monitor and detect money laundering. So as a result of these increased efforts to try and stop money laundering across the world, this is why we, when we go to open bank accounts, are seeing more checks that are being done, and it takes a bit longer.
I think we're seeing a greater use of technology in the sort of the back end of the banks and the institutions. We are seeing institutions using machine learning, artificial intelligence. I'm sure you recognize the scenario where you've gone to pay for a transaction online and it's been stopped by the anti-fraud team. You have to call the bank up. Effectively, what that's doing is it's trying to predict trends, common traits of transactions to try and effectively protect you as a customer.
With Brexit looming on the horizon, international cooperation lies at the heart of this latest EU directive.
The UK and Gibraltar typically wants to maintain really high AML standards, so there's not going to be, from my perspective, really any differences between what Spain implements to what the UK implements. On a European level, there's been a clear recognition now that much more needs to be done. There's been a number of money laundering scandals that have been in the news over the past few years. There's been a recognition that more needs to be done to make sure the regulators across the member states are properly enforcing the standards, and also there are gaps and loopholes in the standards as well. So what the European Union is looking to do now is bring out 2 more pieces of legislation focusing on anti-money laundering and terrorist financing, which is supposed to bridge those gaps and loopholes and more harmonise the rules across the EU.
As measures to combat anti-money laundering activities have become ever more complex, criminals have demonstrated an ability to exploit loopholes in the system. Given that financial information is a key part of any investigation involving financial crime, the 5th AML Directive aims to plug the gap. But in this fast-changing world, the battle to stop money laundering is sure to continue.